Yeah, both sides of it. So, well, you talked new races last year. Miami was a new race that was on the calendar, but we have some breaking news that we've heard coming out of Miami that they're trying to improve the experience down there this coming year.
That's right. And first off, they're going to resurface the track. People who paid kind of close attention to what was going on at the track. Not everyone, I think, in Miami was. I think a lot of people were very interested in the VIP experience. But if you were watching closely on track, you'll notice that the surface was starting to crumble away in certain places. And I think it became more of a story than it actually was in the race. And in some ways, it actually made the racing quite exciting because more mistakes were made. But it's really not what you want. It's a random element, which F1 tries to get out of. So that they've moved to working with Tilke, which are a very well-known track development company. They've designed a lot of the circuits on F1 and they do a lot with track surfaces. They know what's best for racing. So the organizers at Miami are very convinced that by resurfacing the track, they'll avoid any of the embarrassment that might go with the track falling apart, and they'll improve the racing. So I hope they succeed in that. Perhaps more interesting and more exciting is that they're going to move the paddock, so the place where all the teams are based, where they all have their hospitality units, inside the Hard Rock Stadium on the field where you usually see the Miami Dolphins play. And so you'll have everyone kind of walking in between their little huts out on the field, and the fans will be able to watch that. So they'll be able to sit up in the stands watching down and see, say, Carlos Sainz go and chat with his good buddy Lando Norris in the paddock. And how I imagine it, although I can assure you the paddock isn't quite as exciting as this, is that it will be almost like a kind of real life episode of Drive to Survive going along. So you'll be able to, with your binoculars, follow Gunther Steiner and see who Christian Horner's shouting at and all the rest of it. But yeah, the reality is that, as Nate and I know, we spend a lot of time in the paddock. It's not always quite as exciting as it looks on Drive to Survive.
I think people are going to be quite bored. Yeah,
but I think it's a cool thing. When there's nothing going on the track and people want to see something different. And look, I think we get very used to seeing the drivers and the team principals. We're incredibly fortunate with that. But for a lot of people, you'll go to a race and sure, you'll see the car go past, but the driver's wearing a helmet. He's kind of right down inside the car. So at least you might get to see some of your heroes. So I think it's a cool development. Yeah, it's a race that I think needed some improvement last year. They also looked at the track layout. The chicane, especially that tricky bit where Carlos Sainz and Esteban Ocon both had big accidents, and they considered changing it, but they just felt that it wasn't really possible with the space they had. They're going to remove some of the curbs that they had there, which led to the nastiness of those accidents. But yeah, I feel like it's still a race where there can be improvement on the track layout. But the good news is that they're not afraid of making changes. They're not afraid of looking at maybe what went wrong the previous year and changing it for the next one. So over time, I think hopefully it will develop into a really good race.
Yeah, hopefully we can see Carlos Sainz with the football helmet on, running football routes on the football field down there for everybody to watch. Nate, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think that the stadium definitely does sound like a live Drive to Survive. I think as well, I don't know if anyone played The Sims, but it might look a little bit like that. So I don't know if some drivers should get some of those green. Well, maybe their moods won't be that good on the Thursday when they're talking to us. Maybe they get one of those red ones to show they're really, really ticked off and really annoyed. But that'd be quite interesting. I mean, I say it will be quite boring. I think Lawrence is right. It'll be very interesting. And actually, one of the cool things about the paddock sometimes is you're doing interviews with any driver, and there's some paddocks where you have balconies and stuff like that. And it's always, I mean, it happens a lot with Lewis and with Fernando. There'll be people up on those balconies shouting down at them and just saying their names over and over again. And for us, we're a bit like, we're trying to ask questions and listen to what they say. But it's great because the drivers often just get confused by that, and they're not confused, sorry, distracted by that, and they're looking around and they're kind of talking to us, but they're just enjoying this adulation from above. So it must be very, very, yeah, just a cool experience for them. I really liked Miami last year, so I'm glad. They've obviously looked at a few things, and this is kind of the new standard for Formula One. I think it's good that races come in and they realize we have to listen to what the fans say. We have to improve things. One of the big things is, maybe people get their tiny violins out at this point, but a lot of influencers and wealthier fans had a really bad time at Miami last year because where some of the VIP areas, they weren't set out in a brilliant way. You could barely see into the racing. They've stepped all of that up as well. So a lot of kind of feedback and improvement on different things. And they're keeping the marina in place as far as I'm aware.
Nate, you missed me playing the tiny violin.
Oh, I did. Yeah, sorry, I did miss that.
Yeah. No, I think, to the paddock experience, I was in the paddock in Austin, and this teenager, Christian Horner was walking out, and he just happened to pull up right next to me. And this young kid walked up to him and said, "Hey, you want to play rock, paper, scissors?" And Christian Horner looked at him. But, I think in the paddock, you get some of those more organic experiences where it's not just solely focused on the racing. So if the fans can see some of those things as well.
Horner might be the worst person. Horner might be the worst person to play rock paper or asked to play rock paper scissors. I can imagine the scowl he gave the kid.
He needless to say, he did not engage in the game of rock paper scissors.
I mean, Gunther would have played. I wonder which other team bosses would.
Yeah, Gunther might have gone best 2 out of 3 because that's traditionally you got to go 2 out of 3.
I think Christian would have played if Toto had challenged him. Because the library is so great there.
That could have been televised. That's we need to get that on. For us, we're unveiling all these new things for the coming season. It's a team principal rock paper scissors tournament. Lawrence, I think to your point as well, though, it's good that it's not just the improvements for the fan experience, but they're reevaluating, resurfacing the track to make sure that the racing is put at the forefront, that we get quality racing first and foremost.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, like I said, I don't think the track surface was a major issue in the end. But if they can get essentially a surface that has uniform grip across it, you're always going to have a racing line, and that's always going to have more grip over the course of a weekend because the rubber gets laid down there. But the closer you can get to uniform grip across it means that you can go offline and overtake. And of course, that's the important thing. That's what we want to see. So I think that's what they're aiming for. And in Tilke, look, I mean, a lot of people who are, maybe kind of deeper fans of the sport will know about Herman Tilke and his company and the tracks that he's brought into F1. And for a long time, he wasn't very popular. People said all the tracks are the same, but some of those have turned out to be very good. And let's face it, they have the experience. They've been involved in pretty much every new track for the past 20 years or so. So I feel like if you're going to get somebody who knows their track surfaces and knows what to lay down and how to improve the racing, that'll be it. But like I said, just a few little tweaks around there, I think would be good, because, while they did a great job with what they have, because actually before this podcast, we were just talking about the Caesars Palace Grand Prix in Las Vegas back in the early 1980s and how that was run in a car park. And with Miami, the big concern going there the first year was this is just the car park of the Hard Rock Stadium. What if it's
a parking lot for our American listeners?
A parking lot. Sorry, use the vocabulary for the American listeners. That's right. A parking lot. And, a lot of criticism is leveled at tracks with big runoff. They're called parking lot Grand Prix, even if they're not, even if they're very well-designed racetracks. So the big concern going there was that it was going to be like racing round in circles with, just silly little kind of obvious kind of basic corners, but it wasn't. It's not like that. But I still feel like there's, there's little bits of improvement to be made. So, but like I said, they're looking at what went wrong the previous year. They're changing it. So that's a good attitude to have.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.